And to the extent that Michigan needs that, I think there's absolutely no other way we're going to move forward unless people like me and people, I think of this age group too, who I think are less identified with political parties than maybe their parents and grandparents were in the past, but are just as identified with causes and ideals and issues, can kind of put those labels aside, find the areas where they agree, and I think we'll be better off.
And get to work.
Absolutely, you have to get to work. The reason you have gridlock in Lansing is not just because people are unwilling to work together, but they just don't have that trust build up to be able to do it. I think people can trust me because I've already done it. I keep my word. If I tell somebody I'm going to do something, I do it. Not everybody's going to like it, but I think people will understand that that when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to do it, whether that means working with Republicans or Democrats, it's not going to matter. Yeah.
Mr. Dillon, in Michigan, we're facing some very dire times. There's a lot of duress in our communities about unemployment. You see issues popping up around homelessness. Where does the hope lie for younger generations that are homegrown here in Michigan? You're a younger fellow yourself, Generation X, and you kind of represent a new type of leadership that we are just now starting to see emerge in the latter 2000s. Would you like to go into detail on where you think young people can draw their inspiration from in times like these?
Well, I think where they probably shouldn't draw their inspiration from is looking to others, frankly, people like me, or, hopefully I can inspire some people to do things, but people have to look within themselves and I think look directly around them, whether it's their family or their community or their friends, to try to find out where they can be effective. I chose to announce my campaign in the East Hills neighborhood in Grand Rapids because I think that is emblematic of the kind of spirit that we have here, but it's also a combination of young people with a vision working with people who've been around the neighborhood for a long time to try to come together and make some positive change. And I think you can see it on the ground every day. You have thriving businesses there. You have people moving back into that neighborhood. You have people who are taking an active role in their street, in their neighborhood, in the wider community. I think that's where young people, particularly people of my generation, I'm probably a little bit at the higher end of Generation X than I look, but I think that's the important thing, is to first take responsibility on your street, in your neighborhood, and start building these things from the ground up. Because when you start looking at the top for inspiration, it's great, but things happen really slow if you're looking for other people to make change for you. I think you have to look to people who've done things and kind of model yourself on that. But if you really want to make change and you want to be effective, you want to be inspired, go out and do it yourself.
Well, when you're in the State House, what are some of the initiatives that you think you can support that will help encourage the city to retain the talent that we have here? Because you're very talented. There are many others that are very talented. And when you finish school or you get done with high school, a lot of people think, hey, the opportunities just aren't there in Michigan.
Well, specifically, I think there's a few things I'd like to do, but I think overall, one of the things we have to do is we've got to look at the way we treat businesses in the state, because I don't think there's any question. You ask somebody on the street, to a CEO, a Democrat, a Republican, a city official, a township official, a county official, state official, where we're going to see the economy improve is with small and medium-sized businesses, neighborhood-based businesses that are able to expand and grow. And to the extent that the state legislature is going to have to essentially throw out the tax code that is geared towards big businesses like the big three and those manufacturers that provided a lot of jobs in the past but aren't doing the same thing that they used to do. So we're going to have to take the shackles off to allow small businesses and innovators and people who have new ideas to be able to have the ability to start their business, whether that's providing some sort of incentive through tax abatements, or whether that's allowing them to hire people and giving them a credit for that. One of the ideas I heard a while back to try to keep people in the state was to give businesses a tax credit for hiring interns, for college graduates who may not be able to find a job yet, but some company or small business may be able to offer an internship. Right now they can't afford to pay them, but if we could offer a tax credit perhaps for people to to hire interns to keep them and learn their business so that they can then develop into the next job. I think that's something we should explore. But anything I think that is going to allow young people and frankly anybody who's got a good idea to be innovative and stay right here in Michigan is important. We've had success with Renaissance zones in certain areas. We've had success with corridor improvement districts. Not all of these things have worked, but the ones that do work, I think we really need to get behind and do it.
Okay.
And I don't, I will say this, I don't have all the answers. I think there's a lot of complicated things we have to do, whether it's investing in education and higher education and making sure that we're investing more in higher education than we are in corrections. We're one of the only states in the country, I think, that actually is spending more to keep people in prison than we are to keep people in college. That's just fundamentally flawed. That's not going to keep people in the state. That's not going to produce the kind of people that we want to be starting businesses here. So whether we're talking about those big macro issues about where we're allocating resources at the state, or kind of the micro issues where we're talking to people, frankly, like you, Jonathan, and the people that you're associated with that are doing some of these exciting things in the city, we need to take all that into consideration. And I think as a younger person, I think I have perhaps more of an open mind to be able to say, this idea may have worked in the past, it's not working now, let's try this idea.
Well, and that gets me to the next question, youth engagement. Now, we saw a lot of young people get very excited about the Obama campaign in 2010. And then we saw a huge drop off as far as young people being involved,
right,
and a lot of young people feeling underutilized. How do you think we can continue to utilize people, especially leading up to midterm elections, and not just elections, but getting them involved and keeping them engaged
right
within the political process all throughout the year, whether it's exciting at the moment or not?
That's I think a question that's been people have been trying to figure out forever, because in a certain sense elections are exciting,
right,
and they get people excited, and you find a candidate or cause that you're supportive of, and you get behind them and you do that. But once the election's over, it's difficult, I think, not only for the people who were involved in that campaign, but the people who they were campaigning for, to keep everybody involved and excited. I mean, the nature of government work, whether it's at the federal, state, or local level, is not the most exciting thing in the world sometimes. There's a lot of boring meetings and committees, and it's not the kind of thing that people who may be drawn to a campaign because of the excitement are necessarily going to be drawn to afterwards.
Right.
But I do think, to the extent that you can try to find the people who are really excited about a candidate or a cause, and when the initial excitement wears off, they've got to find outlets at their local and community level to keep involved. I mean, I'm not trying to just stroke your ego, Jonathan, but the fact is we've got to have things like the things that you're doing where people can actually feel a connection, that they can see that what they're doing has an impact. We were talking earlier off air about a person that I ran into that was kind of all excited about Obama, and then now is kind of despondent because he didn't see things happening as fast as they could. Part of that's an education process to tell people, look, change happens slow sometimes. It doesn't happen as fast as you want, and that's the nature of the system that we operate in. But in between the times when you get excited about elections, there's a lot of work that goes on. And if you look back, it's those periods in between elections where you see real positive social change happening because of the policies that get created by the people that you may have supported. But how we keep people engaged, I don't necessarily know. That we have to keep them engaged. I know it's important. If you want to continue to have the momentum that you have at the beginning, you've got to find a way for people to be involved, or else you're going to lose the vision and the progress that you already had.
So we'll label that a work in progress.
It's a work in process, and I'm going to leave that up to you to figure it out.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.